Dear students and colleagues, my name is Ciechanover, and I am an Israeli physician and biologist working at the Faculty of Medicine of the Technion, which is Israel Institute of Technology in Haifa, Israel. I happen also to be a laureate of the 2004 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for discovering the ubiquitin-mediated proteolytic system. I intend to participate and to give a talk at the Central Asia Nobel Festival series of lectures, and I invite you all to participate, to inspire us and to be inspired. But mostly, I want you to learn from this participation one lesson. People like us who made important discoveries are human beings exactly like you are. We have two hands, two eyes, two legs. We are simple human beings. And if we could do it, you can do it as well. So all the best, and hope to meet you all in the upcoming festival of Nobel laureates in Kazakhstan. Take good care of yourself and stay safe.
Welcome to the Central Asia Nobel Fest in 2021. This is John Mather, Senior Project Scientist for the James Webb Space Telescope, working at NASA in Greenbelt, Maryland, the United States. I'm interested in the whole history of the universe from the Big Bang to now, how life became possible on our own little planet circling an ordinary star, how we can protect our planet, and how far we can go. I hope you will find the Nobel Fest a fascinating adventure.
Hi, I'm David Spergel. I won the Breakthrough Prize in 2018, and I'm excited about speaking at the Central Asia Nobel Fest on my work and others on cosmology. Over the past 20 years, we've learned that atoms, the stuff that makes up us, makes up only 5% of the universe. So I'll be telling the story of how we probe the dark matter, the dark energy, and look back to the beginnings of the universe and learn how structure and galaxies and everything else emerges. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello, I'm Christopher Haken, 2018 Breakthrough Prize winner. I'm very excited about the upcoming Central Asia Nobel Fest lecture series. I hope you'll join us.
Nobel Fest.
Dear students and colleagues, my name is Ciechanover, and I am an Israeli physician and biologist working at the Faculty of Medicine of the Technion, which is Israel Institute of Technology in Haifa, Israel. I happen also to be a laureate of the 2004 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for discovering the ubiquitin-mediated proteolytic system. I intend to participate and to give a talk at the Central Asia Nobel Festival series of lectures, and I invite you all to participate, to inspire us and to be inspired. But mostly, I want you to learn from this participation one lesson. People like us who made important discoveries are human beings exactly like you are. We have 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 legs. We are simple human beings. And if we could do it, you can do it as well. So all the best, and hope to meet you all in the upcoming Festival of Nobel Laureates in Kazakhstan. Take good care of yourself and stay safe.
Welcome to the Central Asia Nobel Fest in 2021. This is John Mather, Senior Project Scientist for the James Webb Space Telescope, working at NASA in Greenbelt, Maryland, the United States. I'm interested in the whole history of the universe from the Big Bang to now, how life became possible on our own little planet circling an ordinary star, how we can protect our planet, and how far we can go. I hope you will find the Nobel Fest a fascinating adventure.
Hi, I'm David Spergel. I won the Breakthrough Prize in 2018, and I'm excited about speaking at the Central Asia Nobel Fest on my work and others on cosmology. Over the past 20 years, we've learned that atoms, the stuff that makes up us, makes up only 5% of the universe. So I'll be telling the story of how we probe the dark matter, the dark energy, and look back to the beginnings of the universe and learn how structure and galaxies and everything else emerges. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello, I'm Christopher Haken, 2018 Breakthrough Prize winner. I'm very excited about the upcoming Central Asia Nobel Fest lecture series. I hope you'll join us.
Nobel Fest.
Dear students and colleagues, my name is Ciechanover, and I am an Israeli physician and biologist working at the Faculty of Medicine of the Technion, which is Israel Institute of Technology in Haifa, Israel. I happen also to be a laureate of the 2004 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for discovering the ubiquitin-mediated proteolytic system. I intend to participate and to give a talk at the Central Asia Nobel Festival series of lectures, and I invite you all to participate, to inspire us and to be inspired. But mostly, I want you to learn from this participation one lesson. People like us who made important discoveries are human beings exactly like you are. We have 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 legs. We are simple human beings. And if we could do it, you can do it as well. So all the best, and hope to meet you all in the upcoming Festival of Nobel Laureates in Kazakhstan. Take good care of yourself and stay safe.
Welcome to the Central Asia Nobel Fest in 2021. This is John Mather, Senior Project Scientist for the James Webb Space Telescope, working at NASA in Greenbelt, Maryland, the United States. I'm interested in the whole history of the universe from the Big Bang to now, how life became possible on our own little planet circling an ordinary star, how we can protect our planet, and how far we can go. I hope you will find the Nobel Fest a fascinating adventure.
Hi, I'm David Spergel. I won the Breakthrough Prize in 2018, and I'm excited about speaking at the Central Asia Nobel Fest on my work and others on cosmology. Over the past 20 years, we've learned that atoms, the stuff that makes up us, makes up only 5% of the universe. So I'll be telling the story of how we probe the dark matter, the dark energy, and look back to the beginnings of the universe and learn how structure and galaxies and everything else emerges. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello, I'm Christopher Haken, 2018 Breakthrough Prize winner. I'm very excited about the upcoming Central Asia Nobel Fest lecture series. I hope you'll join us.
Nobel Fest.
Что абитуриент ждет от университета? Знания, опыт, образование или же студенческую жизнь? Я вам скажу, что КБТУ – это нечто большее. Это активная студенческая жизнь, новые знакомства, новые друзья. Опыт, навыки и знания, которые вы получите здесь, могут стать отличным стартом для вашей карьеры. Также в нашем университете вы можете встретить свою любовь. Теперь немного поговорим про учебную часть. КБТУ – это университет, который подготавливает и выпускает элиту Казахстана. Здесь вы можете наблюдать наши тренажеры, где студенты тренируются и обучаются.
Hello, my name is Donald Hoskins, and I'm a finance professor here at KVTU at the Business School. My background includes 25 years on Wall Street, and I bring that knowledge to the classroom to make finance come alive. Come to KVTU.
Hello, my name is Paul Davis, and I'm a professor at the Business School at KBTU. Students are able to major in management, and this can lead to a range of exciting and interesting careers in the world of business and government.
I am Professor Said Najim. I am working as Center of Chemical Engineer at KBTU since 2015. It is a great pleasure to welcome to our center. Study at our center provide students new knowledge, new technology. Our Center of Chemical Engineer has trained more than 500 chemical technologists. Our degrees lead graduates to successful lives and careers as scientists, specialists, and scholars. Our bachelor program is the best in Kazakhstan by independent Kazakhstan agency. We have international accreditation. Our programs licensed by international agency. I can say that KBTU is the #1 in Kazakhstan. It will be glad to see you in KBTU.
Что абитуриент ждет от университета? Знания, опыт, образование или же студенческую жизнь? Я вам скажу, что КБТУ – это нечто большее. Это активная студенческая жизнь, новые знакомства, новые друзья. Опыт, навыки и знания, которые вы получите здесь, могут стать отличным стартом для вашей карьеры. Также в нашем университете вы можете встретить свою любовь. Теперь немного поговорим про учебную часть. КБТУ – это университет, который подготавливает и выпускает элиту Казахстана. Здесь вы можете наблюдать наши тренажеры, где студенты тренируются и обучаются.
Hello, my name is Donald Hoskins, and I'm a finance professor here at KVTU at the Business School. My background includes 25 years on Wall Street, and I bring that knowledge to the classroom to make finance come alive. Come to KBTU.
Hello, my name is Paul Davis, and I'm a professor at the Business School at KBTU. Students are able to major in management, and this can lead to a range of exciting and interesting careers in the world of business and government.
I am Professor Said Najim. I am working as Center of Chemical Engineer at KBTU since 2015. It is a great pleasure to welcome to our center. Study at our center provide students new knowledge, new technology. Our Center of Chemical Engineer has trained more than 500.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ferdinand Molnar. I'm an associate professor of biology at the Nazarbayev University, and I'm going to be your host today for this very interesting session. And I would like to remind everyone that we are having a very, very interesting week from April 12 to April 16, which is called a Nobel Fest. And I would encourage everyone to participate. There are really, really interesting topics, interesting people. And I think it might be so. Don't be shy. For example, if your field is, for example, not physics or not life sciences, just join. I think it's worth for the informations. But let's go now today for introducing our today's very important speaker. It's my pleasure, both pleasure and honor, to have here today Aharon Ciechanover, who is at the current point, he is working at the Technion Israel Institute of Technology, Haifa, Israel. And very briefly, he has a medical degree and also a degree in biochemistry from Hasadaf Medical School, Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And he did his doctorate in Technical Israel Institute of Technology, Haifa, with Avram Hershko. And then part of his stay was in US with Erwin Rose Laboratory, where actually I could say the magic happened. And together they are sharing with Avram Hershko and with Erwin Rose a Nobel Prize with what they received in 2004 for discovery of ubiquitin-mediated protein degradation, a very, very important discovery in the field of life science, or actually even medical science. Then in 1981, he moved for a short moment to do his postdoc to Whitehead Institute, MIT, with Harvey Lodish. And then he came back if I'm correct, in 1984, back to his alma mater, Technion Israel Institute of Technology, Haifa, where he resides and actively researching until very today's. So today we have a very, very interesting topic, and I think we want to know the answer for this very, very intriguing questions. So are we really going to cure all diseases at what price? So please, Professor Ciechanover,
Thank you very much. Good morning or good afternoon, Kazakhstan. We are at 8 o'clock in the morning here in Israel. And what I'm going to tell you today is not about our discovery of the ubiquitin system and its huge clinical implications. There are numerous drugs in the market. The drugs have saved the lives of millions of people worldwide. We shall not go into it. Rather, I'm going to shed light on a completely different issue, and that's the new development in medicine, what we call the revolution of personalized medicine, the roots of the revolution, what's going on here, but also to tell you a little bit about bioethical issues that are related to it, because we should not forget that at the end of the day, medicine, the customer of medicine is the patient, and the patient is the sick patient. And the sickness from time to time, unfortunately, is still very severe, at times fatal, and medicine doesn't know what to do with it. There are many issues here about the feelings of the patients, what we can do with patients, what we cannot do with patients, families, and so on and so forth. And the bioethical issues are enormous. Just as Israel is exiting out successfully from the COVID-19 pandemic, even the COVID-19 brought with it a lot of bioethical issues like vaccination, who to vaccinate first, what about poor countries that cannot buy vaccines, and so on and so forth. So you see that whenever people are involved, and I'm not talking about wars and other atrocities, I'm talking about normal life with good intention, when we want to do good. Nevertheless, we do have issues that we need to think about, although not always we have a solution. But thinking about it and approaching it and generating guidelines should be okay for the beginning as we are moving with modern technologies. Just to give you a view, this is my city, Haifa. You see the white building on the very left corner. which is magnified on the right. Here I am right now on the 11th floor, looking into the Mediterranean Sea. It's a beautiful city where the Baha'i people that were persecuted in Iran found shelter, and they built their religious center. You see the beautiful gardens, the Baha'i gardens. They are very much into gardening and temples, and it became a UNESCO heritage site, and it's a beautiful city. And I hope that one day you will be able to visit us here, and I will be able to visit Nur Sultan and Kazakhstan, which was actually on the plan, but somehow was postponed due to the pandemic. Okay, so let's go. The dream of the people, of course, is to remain young forever. Everybody wants to remain young. And we are using a little bit medicine, not to remain young, but to illusion myself that we look young, like plastic surgery, lifting, all kinds of cosmetic tricks, but basically we get older. So this is one issue, but we don't want only to remain young and beautiful, we also to be healthy. We want to keep the quality of life. And there is kind of a dream, you see, it's coming up also in books, that we want to remain healthy forever and not to get sick. So these two dreams are really challenging. I would say that for me as a physician, as a scientist, the second dream is much more challenging than the first one. I care much less about beauty than about health. But let's start to look at it realistically. Is it at all possible? Well, you know, 100 years ago, people lived only 50 years on the average. You know, at the turn of the 19th century, 120 years ago, the average lifetime in the world was about 50 years. People died of infections. Women died during delivery of bleeding. We didn't know anything about blood infusion. There was no X-ray, not to say CT scan and MRI, no imaging, hardly any surgery, no antibiotics, no vaccination. Millions and millions of people died of influenza in the 1918 pandemic of Spanish flu. Was miserable. And all of a sudden, within 100 years, at the end of the 20th century, the lifespan increased by almost 35 years. We are now living on the average in developed countries, 80, 85 years, women a little bit more, men a little bit less, few years less, but we increased the lifespan by 30 years. So the question is whether the trend is going to continue, whether we are going to live in 100 years, not 80, but 110 or 120, and then 150, maybe more. So it's possible to make it. Now, in order to give an answer to this one, which we don't have a definite answer, certainly we shall not go, we are not going to go indefinitely, and it's always age is a relative issue. You know, 120 years ago, 50 years old people looked like a miracle. Nowadays, they are playing football and running marathon. So, and even me at beyond 70, I'm daily in my lab, have graduate student, postdoc, living very active life and so on, which was unimaginable 100 years ago. So you see, it's all relative, what is old, what is young, what we can do, what we cannot do. Now, people say that probably we shall not go beyond 110, 115 because of burden of mutations, because of aging of organs, biological system age, because of immunological compromise. But then people say, hey, we can implant new organs. We can now edit genes. We can correct mutations by CRISPR-Cas. So maybe it is possible to do it. Yes, but maybe the limit will be the brain. Are we going to implant new brains? Because it may be possible. You know, let's say that theoretically it's possible to implant a brain, but if you implant a new brain in me, then it's not me anymore. It's somebody else. So maybe kidney it's okay to implant, and heart is okay to implant, and maybe even muscles in my hands and legs and so on. But what about the brain, the emotions, the intelligence, the passion, the imagination, all what make me with me? So, you know, we are starting to cross already by this sentence, you know, the borders of medicine, and walking into the field of philosophy and ethics. What does it mean to exchange organs, especially at the high level? So let's leave this question open, and let's look at medicine in a little bit a historical perspective, because at the end of the day, we are biologists and physicians, and we want to judge it in a practical life, what we can do on the bench, what we can do in our laboratory in order to face those challenges. So medicine is working in three directions these days. One direction is, of course, engineering, real engineering. I just talked with our chairman a few minutes ago before we started that our medical school educates engineers. My university is a technical university, a leading world university. We are taking electric engineer, computer engineer, mathematicians, chemical engineers, and we give them medical education, of course, if they want. So we are generating a hybrid of people that have two different types of education, and then they can go to the industry and develop new imaging machines and new surgical robots and so on and so forth. One direction is engineering. We can replace now joints. We have metals, material sciences. We can replace the hip joint, the shoulder joint. We can make valves to the heart. Maybe in one day we shall be able to make an artificial heart. So this is engineering, one direction that medicine is going. And it's a very important one. If you think about big achievements in medicine in the recent 10, 20 years, many of them belong to engineering. Think about little cameras, think about artificial vessels that we are putting instead of the generated vessels in the body, blood vessels. Engineering, think about imaging, think about MRI, think about CAT scan, think about robotic surgery. The Da Vinci machine, if you don't know about it, it's a robot that can operate just by instructions that it gets from the surgeon, but the surgeon doesn't touch the patient. It's much more accurate, the trauma is much smaller, and so on and so forth. So engineering, one direction. Another direction is what we call tissue engineering, stem cell biology. If a tissue is degenerated, we may be able to replace it. We can take either cells from the patient himself, or we can take embryonic cells and then engineer them to fulfill the function that the patient lost. I'll give you just one example, diabetes. Diabetes is a disease in which we are lacking a hormone that is called insulin, and we are losing this ability to have insulin, and insulin is a very important hormone. What insulin is doing, it takes glucose, it takes sugar, and put it into the cell. We are eating sugar in our diet, but that's not enough for the cell to enjoy the benefits of sugar. Sugar is a source of energy. In order for the cells to enjoy the energy, to utilize the energy of the sugar, we need to put it into the cells. When we eat it, it goes to the blood, but it doesn't go to the cells. In order to have it penetrating into the cells, we need insulin. Insulin is the guy that makes sugar penetrable to cells. If there is no insulin, we are drowning in an ocean of sugar. The sugar level in the blood goes skyrocketing, but it's useless fuel, because you can think about it that you have a car, and the car, you have a full tank with gas, but the gas doesn't go to the engine. So what do you need the gas for? If it doesn't go to the engine to generate the kinetic energy. So people are losing insulin and then the idea is to replace it, to take cells, to make them again secrete insulin, and then treat the disease. The disease is like a pandemic. It's a severe pandemic. Millions and millions of people in the world are getting diabetes, and it's a very severe disease because of side effects, which is blindness, losing of kidney function, losing of legs. People have to go amputation because of the degeneration of the muscles and the blood vessels. So the side effects are horrendous. It's really probably, I would say, number 2 or 3 disease of the Western world. So the idea is to take cells and to engineer them to make insulin. So second direction is what we call tissue engineering. We call it engineering It's not really engineering in the sense of metal or cement, but yes, we are engineering something to do that it didn't do before. And then the third direction that medicine is going is drug discovery. The classical way we have gone for many years, we are going to the pharmacy and we are buying a drug. But how the drug comes to the pharmacy? When you ask children how drugs come to pharmacy, they will tell you with a car. So there is a truck that brings the drugs to the pharmacy. Well, this is a humoristic way. The way to the pharmacy is very long. It takes nowadays 5 to 10 years to develop a very good drug, and it takes billions of dollars. With the vaccination, it was really a miracle that it took much, much faster, a few months, but all the technologies were known. We knew what we are doing. We knew the protein, we knew what we are doing. Nevertheless, it's an important achievement, but that's not the typical drug. To develop a very good anti-cancer drug, you need several good years. You need first to identify the drug in the laboratory. Then you need to try it on mice, and then on bigger animals. Then you need to go to clinical trials, and the clinical trials are on patients. You first have to find that the drug is not toxic, that it doesn't kill the patient. And then you have to expand the clinical trial to try it on tens of thousands of patients and to compare it to previous drug. It can be either less good than the previous drug, equally good, or better. And it takes years to recruit all the patients. It's done over numerous countries and so on and so forth. So drug development is a complicated and very expensive process. But let's go to drug development and look at it historically. And historically, I mean only the 20th century. We shall not go back because it's only the 20th century that really medicine has flourished in a way that it's also communicable. We have medical school, we have textbooks, we can use now Zoom, but we can use the internet, the communication has become easy, airline, transportation, communication has become. And so, you know, if you think about the reason at the beginning of my talk, when I talked about longevity, about elongating life, the question is what happened in the 20th century that didn't happen 4,000 years before in the old Egypt and Greece and the old China and Japan. Technology, science, technology, and communication. That's what happened. You know, if you think about longevity, 4,000 years ago in old Rome and Greece and Egypt and China, people lived on the average 30 years. This was the average lifespan. All the mummies that you find in Egypt and now the Neanderthal person, they all lived very short life. It took 4,000 years and more to get from 30 years of age to 50. And then it took only 100 years, the 20th century, to get another 30 years. The jump in the 20th century was unimaginable. Why? Technology, science, education, universities, vaccination, antibiotics, imaging, X-ray, CAT scan, MRI, surgery, drug development. Everything happened in what I think was the magic century. But let's go back to drug development because we are short in time and we need also to focus. So out of the three directions that I mentioned by which medicine is progressing, we shall pick up only the last one, the drug development. And let's look at the first revolution, which is called incidental discoveries. There was no really science. Drugs were discovered by coincidence. And one of the first drugs that was discovered by coincidence is the antibiotic, penicillin. Penicillin was discovered by Sir Alexander Fleming. He got the Nobel Prize for it. And it was a complete coincidence. And I just want to show you the coincidence because it's an unbelievable story. What you see in the middle is a Petri dish. Petri dish is a dish, simple dish made of plastic, cost less than 1 American cent. And we put a nutritious medium on the dish. So very rich food source. And bacteria grow on the food source. So when in the lab, in my lab, we are growing bacteria for different purposes. We put, you see the bacteria, and the bacteria is the white smear in the middle. I don't know whether you see my mouse, but I point to to the white smear. And these are the bacteria. And that experimental bacteria that Sir Alexander Fleming was working with. But then one weekend in the summer of 1921, he forgot to cover the dish and he left it on the bench. And what happened during the weekend, that a spore of a fungus, spore is the single cell of a fungus that flies in the air, and it's very well protected, so it keeps the potential for life there, fell on the dish. And you see the white spot. And during the weekend, the fungus started to grow and to multiply. The fungus doesn't belong there. It was a mistake. It was something that should not have happened. It happens in my lab when I see a fungus on the dish, we kick out the dish because it doesn't belong to the experiment. It came from a contamination. But then Fleming was very curious. You see that there is a space, a halo that separates the fungus from the bacteria. There is like few millimeter halo that to which the bacteria do not grow. So Fleming thought, wow, what's going on here? Probably the colony of the fungus, which he called penicillin, secretes a material that doesn't let the bacteria to grow, an antibacterial material. And he called it antibiotic. Anti is against, bio is life. It's something that prevents the life of the bacteria. And here is the name antibiotics. He was not a chemist. It took another almost 15 years to purify the material by Sir Ernst Chain and Howard Florey, two British scientists. And all the three of them got the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1945 for development, for discovery of the first antibiotic. By the way, penicillin, the first antibiotic, was used already during World War II and saved the lives of hundreds of thousands of soldiers of the Allies. Then people say, aha, if fungi can secrete antibiotic, and the idea of why do they do it at all? They do it in order to protect themselves, because otherwise the bacteria will invade, there will be competition on food and may kill them. So it's kind of a defense line. So people say, aha, if fungi can secrete bacteria, an antibiotic, maybe other fungi like streptomyces and other can secrete other antibiotic material. And indeed, by that way, another antibiotic was discovered called streptomycin, secreted by streptomycin, discovered by Waxman in New Jersey, in Rutgers University, and the world has changed forever. We are still, I will not go into it, but we are still now searching for new antibiotic. People develop resistance, and it's infectious diseases are really a major threat on humanity. So you see, it was discovered by coincidence. Nobody knew even that they exist. And there are many other drugs that were discovered by coincidence. But we cannot rely on coincidence on discovering drugs. It may never happen. So people moved with the development of science, people moved to more sophisticated methods. They moved into what we called high throughput brute force screening. What does it mean? It reflects development in science. Everything that we are moving to, it's because science allows us to move into it. It doesn't give us permission, but we don't need permission, but development of technologies allows us to explore new avenues. What allowed us to go to the second revolution of screening? And I'll explain you what is screening, if you are not familiar with it. It was two developments that occurred in two independent professions. One is biology, and in biology we learned to model diseases. We don't need to go to people. We can model diseases even in cells. If you walk 5 meters out of my room, you will go to a tissue culture room where we are growing different types of cancers. We are taking cells from patients, from cancer, we put them on a dish, we give them good food, and they grow forever. We multiply them, and then we can even stop it by freezing them. We can put them in liquid nitrogen and keep them forever. And when we need them, we take them out again, put them in 37 degrees with good food, and they grow. So we can model diseases, and we can model not only cancer, we can model heart diseases, we can model a lot of diseases. And we can do it in animals too. We can model diseases in mice. We can do it in flies. I can make fly, Drosophila, sick by modeling it. And each model has its own advantages. We don't have time to go into it, but we can model diseases. Okay, this is the bride of the wedding. Now let's go to the bridegroom, because for a marriage we need to. The second part of this couple is chemistry. Chemistry has evolved enormously, and especially synthetic organic chemistry. Chemists can synthesize almost any imaginary compound, provided that it doesn't violate the basic laws of chemistry and physics. From time to time, it takes many steps to get to the compound, but chemists can do it. And along the time, millions of compounds have been synthesized, but more than that, on the way to the final product, you also have what we call intermediate compounds. We have 10, 20, 30 intermediate compounds on the way to the final product. So people say, hey, we have millions of compounds. Let's do a stupid experiment. Really, we don't have any theory. We don't have any mechanism. Let's take a drop from each of the compounds that we have and try to see whether they affect the model disease. Maybe they can stop, one of them can stop the division of cancer cells, kind of stopping tumor from growing. And if it will work on cells, we may move to other models, to models in mice, to models in animals, and so on and so forth. So gradually a whole technology was developed. And if you will go into a big pharmaceutical drug development company like Merck, like Johnson & Johnson, you will see something that your eyes will not believe. There are huge incubators in which cells are growing, models are growing in little wells, tiny little wells. On the other side, there are millions of materials that are sitting in equal dishes. So if you have a little plastic dish like this, we have 396 wells in each of a plastic dish that all the size of it is like 12 by 8 centimeters. 396 wells. And on the other side, we have the same dish, but instead they have the material, little sample of material of each material, separate material sitting in 396 wells. A robot comes to the wells with the materials, pick up a little drop, moves it to the cells, put it into the cells go back to the incubator. The next day, the cells are coming out. They go to the microscope, everything is automated, and artificial intelligence software looks at the 396 wells to see which of the wells was affected. And then you can go back to the drug, because the two dishes are replicas, and you can say, hey, the drug that was on the first horizontal line, number 16, is the drug that affected growth of cancer cells or inhibited secretion of cholesterol that leads to heart diseases. So, and like that, it's a screening. You don't have anything in mind. You just screen, and then you're able to match. Of course, it takes a long way between what I just described to you until we can get to the patient. We have to go to animal experiments, we have to go to toxicity, and then we have to go to the patients. But this is the beginning. What we are doing, we are developing lead. It's called a lead compound. Then we can change it chemically, we can improve it, we can make it more effective, and so on and so forth. And many, many drugs were developed by this technology. I'll remind you only one of them. It's called statin. Statin is a multi-billion-dollar selling drug, and it is for heart diseases. It prevents the accumulation of cholesterol. You see here, this is a blood vessel that takes blood to the heart itself. And you see here the yellow precipitate that develops. It's cholesterol. It's called a plaque. And the plaque, it's like rust in a vessel. You have water vessels in your home. There is a rust that is developing until the rust occludes the whole lumen, the whole space of the vessel. And in order to prevent it, people develop different drugs that are called statin. There is lovastatin and Lipitor, doesn't matter, and they all inhibit the biosynthesis of cholesterol and prevent the development of this rust, of this occlusion of the coronary artery. Because what will happen when the vessel will be occluded, and especially this vessel that go to the heart, what will happen is this patient, he will suffer a heart attack, which is probably #1 killer in Western modern countries, competing only head to shoulder with cancer. And why is it? Because the heart itself will not get blood. The heart is a muscle, it's a pump. The pump also needs energy. It cannot pump without energy. These are the vessels that take blood to the heart itself. And if they are occluded, the heart doesn't get blood, the heart stops pumping and we drop dead. Or get a very severe heart attack if there is no complete occlusion of the vessel. And the statins that were discovered, and I'll explain you in a minute how, prevent cholesterol accumulation and prevent heart attacks. It was discovered by Akira Endo, a Japanese pharmacologist. You see his picture here. He was awarded many important prizes for this discovery. How? By screening a library, we call it a library, of chemicals. In his case, it was several tens of thousands of chemicals of natural product, of Japanese natural product. All kind of materials that are taken from fungi, from pine tree, from different plants in Japan, pure material that he screened, and he found that one of them, it was only 30 years or 40 years ago, can prevent biosynthesis of cholesterol. So this came out of screening. And the difference between coincidental discovery that I told you about before, and this one is the fact that he knew what he's doing. He was looking for an inhibitor of cholesterol synthesis. Now, why we cannot go on with the screening? We cannot go on with screenings because the model is not a good model. You know, it's an animal, it's a mouse. Mouse are not good, they cannot mimic human beings. And also, we don't have very good models to all human diseases. We don't have models for depression, for psychiatric diseases, for autism. You know, mice, we cannot measure what do they feel psychologically and whether they are getting up in the morning with a good mood or with a bad mood. So the issue is the disadvantages of the screening, though people say let's screen and screen and screen and screen all diseases, is one, that the model of the screening is not the correct model, it's not the human being, and therefore we fail a lot when we move with a drug from mice to people. And second, that we cannot model all diseases. So we needed to go to a better technology, and the better technology is called personalized medicine. It's called also the 4 Ps. We shall talk about it in a minute. But what is it? It came out from the discovery of the DNA by Watson and Crick. You can see these two geniuses here in the picture with a double helix structure of the DNA and the ability to read the information in the DNA, to sequence it. So now I can go to each and every one of you and to myself and to sequence my DNA and to know exactly what's going on there. What are the mutations that I already have? What are the dangers of the mutation and what's going on? But it's not only the sequence of the DNA, it's also other omics. We can read also the RNA, we can read proteins, we can read small metabolites, and it's all called metabolomics. Reading the DNA called genomics, reading the RNA called transcriptomics, reading proteins called proteomics, reading small molecules like sugar called metabolomics. So we have a set of machines that are called mass spectrometers. We are all equipped with them. Actually, on my floor here, 10 meters away from here, sitting one of the world experts in metabolomics, and we are collaborating. These are very heavy machines and very expensive. But now I can go and profile each and every one person individually. So we are moving from mass medicine, that we are giving the same drug to all patients, to very personalized medicine. And what we learned from personalized medicine is that what we thought is the same disease have different sources. I'll give you one example, which I like a lot because I like to drive cars. From the car, think about a car, and you have a car in the winter. I don't know how the winter in Kazakhstan looks like. Probably it's getting very cold, but in Moscow, I'm sure it's getting cold. In your neighbor from the north, and you cannot turn on your car. So this is the disease. The disease is called, I cannot turn my car. But if you look into the reason, there can be numerous reasons. One reason can be that you didn't put gas in your tank. There is no benzene. There is no gas. So the car will not turn on. Another can be that the sparks are wet because there was rain in the night and the car is rusty and they have holes in the cover of the engine. The water came in and the sparks are wet. Another reason can be that you didn't put oil and the cylinders are stuck in the barrel. Another reason can be that you forgot to turn off the lights and the battery is empty. So you see, one disease can have different reasons. The same with human beings. What we discovered when we entered into the DNA, that each disease have different mutation. So we can have heart attack and a lot of cholesterol, but the reason why there is a lot of cholesterol can be numerous. It can be a defect in one enzyme, it can be a defect in another enzyme, and yet in another enzyme. Breast cancer can be attributed to mutations in different genes. It can be attributed to a mutation in the EGF receptor, in the progesterone receptor, in the estrogen receptor, and so on and so forth. So the ability to read the DNA gives us a view on the disease in an individual patient. There is no breast cancer anymore. This term has disappeared from our dictionary. There is breast cancer in woman A that has a name, ID card, address, family, very individual. So we are able now to approach patients individually and to identify the disease on an individual. And this is how it looks like. Look at the Time magazine. You know, modern medicine, amazing new medicines will be based on DNA. That's what's going on. This is the revolution. And I'll give you just one example of breast cancer that I was talking about. And you can see here on the left lower side, you can see biopsies, a sample taken from breast cancer from two women. And they manipulated a little bit in the lab with some color, with an antibody against the estrogen receptor. And you can see that the woman on the right side has a staining. She has a mutation in the estrogen receptor. And the woman on the left side, we see the cancer, but there is nothing, no staining. The two samples were treated equally. So the woman on the right side has a mutation in the estrogen receptor and can be treated with tamoxifen, which is a drug to treat this type of cancer. But the woman in the left side, if I treat her with tamoxifen, nothing will happen. She will keep on deteriorating and dying of the disease. She has something else. She might have a problem with the EGF receptor, a mutation in another molecule, and therefore she should be treated with Herceptin. So you see two women come to the lab, to the clinic, with a tumor in the breast. Until recently, it was breast cancer. They were treated equally by irradiation, by chemotherapy, horrendous treatment. Now we can identify the exact mutation that leads to the cancer in each woman and treat each woman individually, and so on and so forth. So the ability to identify diseases in an individual way gives us a huge power to really go into the reason of the disease. Because think about the car that I was talking to you. If your problem is with the battery, that the battery is empty, and you will give the car more oil or more gas, nothing will happen. The battery will still remain empty. We are going now to treat the patients individually. We need to find the reason for the problem, why the car is not moving in the morning. So because time is short and I want to leave really time for questions, let me just go to the very last part of my talk, and that's the bioethical issues. And the bioethical issues are enormous. And I'll point out, there is a list here of all the issues that are concerning the personalized medicine, but I would like to relate only to two of them, to number 6 and number 7. And number 6 is end of the blockbuster drug era. And what I mean by that is that until now, the pharmaceutical companies enjoy what we call blockbuster drugs, because there were many reasons to each disease. You know, we have breast cancer, we have one drug. We have cholesterol, we have one drug. So people took the one drug, and whether it helped them or did not help them, or helped them only partially, or they had side effects, they said, what can we do? Even if it helps me very little, I'll take it because I have no other choice. So the company were able to sell one drug or two drugs and make billions of dollars. Now the same cake is going to be divided into small pieces, because breast cancer is not breast cancer anymore. There are 25 breast cancer, and each will need different drug. And until now, we gave 1 or 2 chemotherapies and irradiation and almost killed the patient from the treatment, and that was it. Now we can come with 25 different drugs, but each drug needs to be developed, and each development takes years, but mostly it takes $10 billion. So the same cake of the same number of patients, let's say that in Kazakhstan, you have, I don't know, 500,000 women get, 100,000 women get breast cancer every year. Until now, they got one single treatment. Now, every 5,000 will get a different treatment. So the market share of each drug will be small, and the blockbuster income will disappear. So the companies are not happy about it. Now, the problem is that these companies are private companies. Unlike your hospitals, which are state hospitals, the companies are private. They don't need to develop. Nobody forced them to develop drugs on which they don't make money. So think about it. Maybe it's time for countries to enforce companies to make drugs for diseases that they are not interested in. So, and we can talk about it during the question session. The other issue is number 7, bioethical problems. And the bioethical problems are enormous. And they are mostly due to the fact that in order to make a diagnosis, we need to give our DNA. Now, you don't give DNA. Why to give DNA? All what you do is that the examiner come to you with a cotton wool and take a smear from your cheek, from the inside of your cheek. It's nothing, like cheek, and you have it. Actually, when you are sitting in a lecture hall and you put your arms on the arm side, you are leaving your DNA there because the cells from your skin are shedded. So if I am a criminal, if I have a criminal mind, before students are coming to the hall, I can go with alcohol and wipe all the side arm of the chairs, and then you are sitting, you enjoy the lecture, you touch the upholstery, and then I come after the talk with a cotton wool and take a sample from each chair, and I know your DNA. I can sequence it, I can amplify it by a reaction called PCR, and I know what's going on. Now your DNA tells me a lot. Now it tells me a lot. In the future, it will tell me much more. It can tell me about the mutations that you have. It can tell me about the diseases that can be the result of the mutation that you might not have yet, but you will have in the future, because diseases are developing very slowly. It can tell me about maybe psychiatric diseases. It can tell me about a lot of things. And you may not want that I will have this information. Now, let's forget about being criminal. But people, there may be formal agencies that may want to know about it. Think about your employer. The employer wants to know your state of health. So until now, you just fill some form. But in the future, your employer will tell you, in order to get employed, I need your blood sample or a sample from your cheek, because I don't want sick people working in the place that then will be off and I still have to pay them social benefits and so on and so forth. The military would like to know what's going on, because the military may be interested in drafting only the most fitting people. But think about even falling in love. Maybe your spouse and you would like to know more about your partner to life and about how your children are going to look like. Your insurance agent would like to know about it. So think about it. You don't have to be criminal. There will be a lot of agencies in society that might have an interest in your DNA. So should we make it available? Shouldn't we make it available? Can we keep it as a secret? Think about, here is a paper from Nature. Be prepared for the big genome leak. So you see that the issues here are awfully complicated about it. And then come the issue of once I know the mutation, I can correct it by using CRISPR-Cas. And correcting mutation is also a complicated issue because not every defect is a big defect. So here comes the issue of what we define as a disease. Let's say now that all the mothers in Kazakhstan or in Israel would like to have a sequence of the DNA of the children that is still not born. And they will see that the child will be blonde and tall, and he can be a perfect basketball player. But the mother doesn't want the child to be a basketball player. The mother wants the child to be a biochemist, or the opposite. If the boy or the girl will show high intelligence, the mother say, no, I don't want an intelligent boy. I want a boy that will be a basketball player. Does the mother has and then people will say, oh, we can do it for you. Well, it's not an imagination. Now it's imagination, but it's coming. We need to foresee the future. The issue is, what is a disease at all? Being a basketball player is a disease or not? It's not, the mother doesn't like it, but it might well become a definition of a disease. Or think about real problems, small problems, like people are being born with the two fingers are fused together. It's called syndactyly. Okay, so the two fingers are used together. So at the age of 1 year, you can cut the space between. Not a big defect. And there are other small defects. The issue will be, if I can manipulate it, why not to correct it? So we are entering now a slippery slope of even the definition of the disease. We are entering a slippery slope of what is a patient. Until now, if I would ask you what is a patient, you will tell me a patient is a human being that got sick, cannot get up from the bed because he has fever or broke the leg or feel bad, and this is a patient. From in the future, a patient will be the sperm and the egg of the mother and the sperm of the father. Because if we know the information ahead of time, we may want to correct it in germ cells. So even not only the definition of disease is changing, but the definition of the patient is changing. And what about the definition of treatment? What is a treatment now? Treatment now is what I told you before. It's either replacing a joint by a metal-made joint, or engineering your tissue, or give you a pill of a drug. In the future, treatment will be genetic manipulation at the choice of people. So think about what we are walking into with the technology. Now, let me conclude with the last sentence before we are going to a very short question and answer session. And that, don't expect me or people like me to solve these problems. I'm a scientist, not that I understand the problem. It's a societal issue. We need here to have the people and representative of the people, politicians, but not politicians are maybe not the right people. We need sociologists, psychologists, clergymen. You know, the culture in Kazakhstan is different than the culture in Israel. We are Jews, you are not Jews. The climate is different. The history is different. The beliefs is different. The religion is different. Everything is different. Countries will have to solve it for themselves, bringing into consideration historical, traditional, cultural, religious issues, and so on and so forth. It's a complicated problem because, again, we are touching the strings of what makes us human beings. So let me conclude at this point, and let's open for a short session of questions and answers, and then let's end with praying that one day we will be able to meet physically, because I start to really get exhausted of giving a lecture to my screen rather than to people.
Thank you very much, Professor Ciechanover, for very interesting viewpoints on the current current update on the medicine. So let's get directly to the question and answer section. So please, if you have a question, you can just unmute yourself and ask directly, or if you wish, you can also write it in the chat. So please, questions.
Hello, Professor. Thank you for your presentation. If you have mentioned the life longevity, what do you think of cryonics, of cryogenic conservation of life? Because as I understand, it has some problems. For example, water molecules will expand when they are frozen, and this will break the cells. But still, I know that this technology is not refused. So what do you think of it? Is it a pseudoscience or what?
I didn't get the question somehow. Can somebody write it down or on the chat or just...
Professor, it's about cryogenics. So what is your opinion about cryogenics, keeping the body's tissues or the whole organisms in liquid nitrogen, basically, and reviving it after, for example, the disease is curable?
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You cannot revive tissues. The damage will be irreparable because you know, the icicles and the freezing down. It's not, we can do it on cells. We cannot do it on organisms, unfortunately, yet. So the people that put their money on freezing the body in liquid nitrogen can stay in the liquid nitrogen forever, which is okay for the family to keep on paying to the companies. It's not going to work. On cells, yes, we can freeze sperm. We do it. There are sperm banks. We can freeze cancer cells. We can still not freeze successfully eggs, unfertilized eggs. So the egg have to be pumped out of the woman and immediately fertilized. I think that people will get there. They are already the beginning of this technology to take from the female the eggs and to protect them, not unfertilized. We are coming there, but it's again, it's a single cell. It's not an organism. The problem with an organism are the organs. Because you know, when we are freezing a cell, we are freezing the information, the DNA, but it's not an organ. If you're taking a whole body, you have to freeze the heart and the blood and the brain and the eyes and the legs and the stomach and the kidneys and everything, and that cannot come back to life.
Please, another question. A question for the audience. Since DNA editing and DNA-based techniques can these techniques completely replace the ordinary drugs? What do you think?
Well, what do you mean, to exchange the entire DNA in all our body?
So I think the question is directed to that fact whether we will live in the era where basically we will not have low molecular weight drugs, but we will have only macromolecular drugs.
Yeah, we are going there. I don't know whether we are going not having at all a small molecule drug. We are moving to biologics, and the advantage of biologics is that they are more specific. Like I mentioned one of them, by the way, I didn't think of telling that it's biologic, Herceptin. It's an antibody that go directly to a target. It go to the EGF receptor and dimerize it. So the mutated EGF receptor go into the cell and degrade it. And they're more specific. The disadvantage of the macromolecules is that they cannot go into cells. We cannot make them penetrable. Proteins, we can make some proteins penetrable, but we're still not there. And we don't want even all molecules to penetrate into cells. So, so this is the block. The advantage of small molecules that they can penetrate via the membrane, they can go into the cells. So, but yes, I would say that one of the most important development in medicine in the last 30 years was the development of biologics. And we see more and more and more of them. but I think that it will come to kind of a balance.
Another question, please. Go ahead. Just unmute yourself. All right.
Everything looks to be clear.
So okay, please go ahead. Okay, I have one question which is not directly related to your lecture, but I think you are the person who can answer it quite well. What do you think? Where is the secret of Technion being so innovative, and actually Israeli science being so innovative?
I think that the second part of the question is better than the first one. The Technion is a good university. I don't know that there is a secret. I think it's the people. The people of Israel are very unique, which has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that they not only think out of the box, but they are disobedient. You cannot, I'm the professor here, but people can walk into my office and tell me that I'm stupid, and all what we discussed yesterday is bullshit, and they read something else. It's a very discussing, very vibrant society in terms of discussions and so on. People don't get authorities. So there is the society is not hierarchical. So we don't respect hierarchy for the fact of hierarchy. We respect people for the fact of knowledge, achievements, but not because I'm a student and you're a professor. That's not good enough. And I think that part of it we get in the military. Don't forget, in Israel, there is an obligatory military service. In the military in Israel is not a fun walk. Unfortunately, our neighbors that surround us want to eat us daily to breakfast, and we refuse to be food for breakfast. And we have to keep advantage over them, because without technological advantage, you cannot survive these days. We need to be ahead of them. And if you read the newspaper, you can see what meaning to be ahead of them. And the only way to be ahead is to give people the freedom to think, to remove hierarchical boundaries, and to let the imagination fly. Because if you suppress people and you tell them, because I'm a professor, I know better than you, you're at the end of the story. My students are equal to me, and if not smarter. They read, there are many students, they read more, one read this paper, or read this paper, and the idea is discussion. And the military educates you to be independent. They throw you in the desert in the middle of the night, and they tell you, find your way back to base. And you are not allowed to ask to go to houses and to ask where you are. Use the sky, use the stars, use the moon, use your finger to see where the wind is going, use whatever you like. So I just bring it as a challenge of the type. For me, if you ask me, what was my best school ever, was the Israel Defense Forces. I'm an officer in the military, and it was my best school. I learned a lot in the university, but this was more systematic. But even in the university, we are changing now. In the Technion, we are not teaching material. We are teaching challenges. We are teaching question answering. So we throw the students questions, and then we send them home to sit in teams and to come back with solutions. And each come with a different solution. They can approach the solution from different directions. And then we discuss which solutions is the better one, which is the shortest one, which is the cheapest one, which can be commercialized, and so on and so forth. We are more question answering than providing already ready to go food. I think that it's the society. It's not the Technion or the university and so on and so forth.
Well, we saw the recent success regarding vaccination. I mean, Israel is basically leading.
Right. That is due to the fact it's not the credit that our prime minister take from him. He does it for political reasons. I don't listen to him. It's the fact that we have a very good social medicine in Israel, very good infrastructure. So buying a vaccine is not sufficient, but the distributing it and having professionals every corner to inject it and to follow it and to computerize it and to know that you got it. That's the issue. And we have an unbelievable public health providing system, probably the best in the world. The public health system in Israel is, I think, the best in the world. I can tell you that as a physician myself, for 99% of my needs, I will go to an Israeli hospital. Only there will be maybe a rare operation or a rare disease that I might need some help from friends abroad.
Well, obviously there has to be also the willingness coming from the people actually to be open to vaccination, to new alternatives, to new cures, such as that. So in a very close society, you will not get so successful.
Let's put it this way: we are not perfect. We have a lot of vaccination refuseniks and vaccination hesitant.
Yeah. Well, obviously.
But yes, you are right. You are right. We are relatively an open society. The news the media is serving the purpose. Experts are coming to the news, explain to the people.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that the secret of the success of the state of Israel, and we are relatively young, is actually tomorrow is the Memorial Day, and the day after tomorrow is Independence Day. We are celebrating 73 years of our independence. And being an independent state, but really the flourishing was happening in the last 30 years. Education is critically important here. Universities are flourishing, very good universities. I myself graduated a different university initially, the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. So I think that it's an ecosystem, but the root of the ecosystem are the people.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry because I have another meeting in a few minutes.
Okay, so can we have just very last question? Yes. So what do you think? What is your opinion? What new diseases are expected, for example, related to ecology or lifestyle? Do you think about something which may come up in the next couple of years? So something new, what we haven't seen.
Well, I think that we still don't understand at all is the brain and brain diseases. We understand what I call installation. You know, the heart is a pump at the end, complicated, but it's a pump. The vessels are vessels. The muscles are leverages. So maybe a machine, a robot will be able, you know, we can replace a muscle with a cylinder and a barrel, and we can still connect it. But the brain is a challenge. Not only the high function of the brain, but how it's wired. So, you know, let's say that I need to replace a muscle here in my hand. The muscle gets the order from the brain. How do we wire the brain to the artificial muscle? And what is the will? The issue is the translation. Let's say you are sitting now in Kazakhstan. Think about it. And you tell me, Aaron, take your left hand and raise it. Think what it takes. You are in Kazakhstan. You are talking to me via Zoom. And you tell me, raise your hand. And I raise my hand. What did it take? It takes my ears to listen to it. It takes the brain to process it, to understand what you tell me, and then it takes the brain to send an electric wiring, an electric current to exactly the appropriate muscle in the left hand and to move it in the right direction. Think about this chain. Mimicking it when it's sick is an unbelievable challenge that we are still not there. So I think that if you ask me in big, the next challenge is not cancer. We are going to defeat cancer because we understand, we put a good hand, I don't say a perfect hand, on the mechanism of cancer. It's cell division at the end of the day. But the brain and the networking inside it and what happens to it when it's sick. You know, you have Alzheimer's disease, you forget your memory. We don't understand what is memory. If you tell me in Kazakhstan, one word, your mother, all of a sudden, my memory will jump with bringing the photos of my mother in front of me, the memories of home, of eating, of sending me to school 70 years ago. What is it that you told me your mother in Kazakhstan, and all of a sudden I pulled out of my memory pictures and the whole life experiences? We are far away from there. We don't understand almost the beginning of it.
Okay. Thank you very much for all the session, the lecture, the very nice discussion. Thank you very much for your time. Well, I wish you a lot of health, I think. And let's hope that you can come here, visit Kazakhstan, and we can meet in person.
Indeed, let's hope, because I've never been there and I'm extremely curious to come and visit. Thank you very much.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you very much.
there are two questions in the chat. Can you answer this question?
I need to go. I'm sorry. I really apologize, because at 9:15, 2 minutes, I'm on a different Zoom with many participants. So I really deeply apologize. If you send it to me by email, I will send you a written answer by email.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Dear students and colleagues, my name is Ciechanover, and I am an Israeli physician and biologist working at the Faculty of Medicine of the Technion, which is Israel Institute of Technology in Haifa, Israel. I happen also to be a laureate of the 2004 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for discovering the ubiquitin-mediated proteolytic system. I intend to participate and to give a talk at the Central Asia Nobel Festival series of lectures, and I invite you all to participate, to inspire us and to be inspired. But mostly, I want you to learn from this participation one lesson. People like us who made important discoveries are human beings exactly like you are. We have 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 legs. We are simple human beings. And if we could do it, you can do it as well. So all the best, and hope to meet you all in the upcoming festival of Nobel laureates in Kazakhstan. Take good care of yourself and stay safe.
Welcome to the Central Asia Nobel Fest in 2021. This is John Mather, Senior Project Scientist for the James Webb Space Telescope, working at NASA in Greenbelt, Maryland, the United States. I'm interested in the whole history of the universe from the Big Bang to now, how life became possible on our own little planet circling an ordinary star, how we can protect our planet, and how far we can go. I hope you will find the Nobel Fest a fascinating adventure.
Hi, I'm David Spergel. I won the Breakthrough Prize in 2018, and I'm excited about speaking at the Central Asia Nobel Fest on my work and others on cosmology. Over the past 20 years, we've learned a learned that atoms, the stuff that makes up us, makes up only 5% of the universe. So I'll be telling the story of how we probe the dark matter, the dark energy, and look back to the beginnings of the universe and learn how structure and galaxies and everything else emerges. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello, I'm Christopher Haken, 2018 Breakthrough Prize winner. I'm very excited about the upcoming Central Asia Nobel Fest lecture series. I hope you'll join us.